Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm not on no steroids. What the fuck are you talking about?
You're on steroids.
And I'm going to say this because for legal reasons, I think there are a few teams that we play against that weren't clean. We thought it at the time.
I don't think people have any idea how many people are juicing. Like, it's crazy. Like, everybody's on steroids. Like, I hate to break it to you, all your favorite athletes.
Every actor that had a dramatic before and after for a role.
Yeah, dude.
The stuff they'll say in interviews is...
When you think of PEDs and sports, soccer is probably at the bottom of your list. But what if I told you it should be at the top? Yes, when you think of PEDs, or more specifically steroids for that matter, big dudes in tiny undies may come to mind. But these men right here on your screen were taking the same, if not more, okay, maybe not more, but they were taking anabolic steroids. If you want to be the best at any sport and play at the top level, you're gonna have to cut corners. When your job is on the line and you have to perform your best, what are you gonna do? Take performance enhancers. This isn't limited just to steroids. I would actually wager most are on some type of EPO or asthmatic medication, but we will talk all about that later. And trust me, there is a shitload of evidence. To think that this is a new phenomenon is blasphemous. This has been going on for years, centuries. One of the most well-known cases was one of the greats, Diego Maradona, who was caught doping with the drug ephedrine in the 1994 World Cup. Ephedrine helps enhance performance by acting as a stimulant. It boosts energy, improves endurance, and makes it so you become one of the best soccer players in the world one day. Now, has this doping scandal tainted Maradona's legacy? Not really, as it was overshadowed by his chronic cocaine usage, sex workers, and the mafia. But even if you take all of these vices away, I don't think this doping scandal would really have much of an effect on his image. You see, everyone does it. Some more than others, and some even unknowingly. Yes, unknowingly, which happens way more often than you think. There are multiple instances in sport where athletes think they are handed a Gatorade or vitamin supplements, but little do they know there's a shitload of ephedrine or amphetamines laced into what looks like a body armor or creatine tablet. You think I'm making this all up? I wish. Everyone remembers the Sochi Olympics and the Russian doping scandal. What many don't remember though, is many of those athletes had no idea that they were being fed these substances. The only reason that the state-sponsored doping program got caught was because a whistleblower ratted them out. No whistleblower, and well, Russia would have broken numerous records. There are probably numerous squads out there who are doing the same, and the athletes don't have a clue.
There's certain teams I would be walking off and I'd be, you're absolutely shattered. And I remember it, and I'd be looking at players I played against, a couple of Italian teams, and they look like they've not even played a match. Yeah, honestly.
They have the best sports doctors in the world that know exactly what they're doing. For example, players will be told to take an IV drip after practice to help with recovery, and unbeknownst to them, there'll be a sprinkle of EPO laced in as well. These players play upwards of 60 to 70 games a season, and will of course need an extra boost in order to keep up with this incredibly busy schedule that only gets more and more busy with the introduction of new cup competitions every year. Now, these performance enhancement drugs can be separated into three classes. The first being anabolic agents such as steroids and hormones. Some common drugs that fall into this category are testosterone, nandrolone, and the hormone EPO. What do these substances do? Well, they will help enhance strength and vastly improve recovery time and endurance. In the nandrolone affair of 2001, Pep Guardiola, Edgar Davids, Jaap Stam, and others were all caught with nandrolone in their system, and more recently Paul Pogba was caught testing positive for testosterone. All you have to do is look at Bayern Munich's squad to see this phenomenon. The before and after photos of some of these players are absolutely ridiculous. There's something in the water in Munich, and I hate to break it to you, it's not water. Also, may I add, human growth hormone can be lumped into this category as well. And trivia time, which famous soccer player has been known to take HGH? I think the greatest of them all, Lionel Messi. He is no stranger to drugs and probably has the best doctors and endocrinologists behind him. If he was openly spoon-fed HGH by Barcelona in the past, just think of all the shit that he's on currently. The second class of performance enhancement drugs can be lumped into stimulants, these being cocaine, ephedrine aka the drug Maradona busted on, beta-2 agonists aka asthma medications, and the legal caffeine. These drugs can enhance energy levels, improve reaction time, and increase focus. It's no secret that one of these substances are being abused out and about in the open: caffeine. Caffeine gel and pill abuse is common among English Premier League players and has been linked to increased distance covered in games and increased jumping height. You see, when the drug is legal, players have no problem popping a couple before a game, but when it is illegal, they must be more discreet about the process. Asthma medication abuse has also become a more common theme in modern day soccer. For example, it is reported that 63% of Liverpool's squad is asthmatic. What are the chances? These medications stimulate the airways to open and allow more oxygen to be circulated throughout the body. Obviously, this would give any player a slight edge when the margins are so tight. The last class of PEDs are anticatabolic agents or recovery aids. These drugs can be glucocorticoids, which help with reducing inflammation, or selective estrogen receptor modulators, which are often used post-steroid usage to restore natural T production. These we won't spend too much time on because there isn't too much evidence of these drugs being used in soccer. Now, you may be asking, how are these athletes able to get away with using these drugs? Wouldn't these tests flag for these substances right away? Well, first off, there are like 0 drug tests in soccer. In the Premier League, only around 1,200 tests are done in a season. There are around 538 players in the Premier League, so on average, you're only getting tested 2 times per year.
Again.
Also, take into consideration that the World Anti-Doping Agency surely picks favorites, and so some players may not be tested for years and years. MLS, for instance, has a policy that players must be tested randomly once every year, but any details about this are very discreet and almost impossible to find. It doesn't list substance threshold limits, and test results are confidential. Seems a little sketchy. On top of this, when a player is finally tested in any league, it's not before games, but rather after games, at home, or during practice. Take for instance the drug EPO, which stimulates red blood cell production and makes it easier for oxygen to be carried to your muscles. This drug only has a half-life of 5 hours, which means if you're injected with it before a game, most of it will be out of your system by the time WADA, aka the World Anti-Doping Agency, wants your urine or blood, and most of the time it's only urine. Just think about it. If an athlete takes EPO before a game and gets tested 6 to 7 hours later, the EPO levels will most likely not be high enough to pass the threshold limit in a urinalysis, and if blood is not taken, then there is no proof of an increased red blood cell count. This is exactly what Lance Armstrong did for years. Take EPO in addition to receiving blood transfusions composed of his own elevated packed red blood cells. 260 times Lance Armstrong was tested by USADA and the International Cycling Union, and every single time he tested negative. Now, I'm not saying soccer players are going as far as taking blood transfusions before games, but EPO supplementation? Now that's definitely in the works. Also, even if a blood sample was taken, by the time the game is over, many of those red blood cells would have been destroyed due to the rigorous activity put on the body, so their hemoglobin count would be close enough to normal. There is no winning in this situation. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you take it, you're considered a cheater, but if you don't take it, it'll be impossible to keep up with the players who do, which is almost all of them. Again, I keep bringing up cycling, but basically all the top cyclists were caught for doping, and soccer is a very similar sport that requires a tremendous amount of endurance. Players run on average 6.4 miles per game, and some upwards of 9 to 10 miles. These players are running the equivalent of 3 5Ks back to back to back, and it's not just running, it's changing sprint speed, fighting for headers, and tackling the opposition. Goalies aren't even off limits for taking PEDs either, as Onana recently popped for furosemide back in 2021 and blamed it on his wife. If you don't know, furosemide is a strong diuretic, which means you will piss a lot more water. This is a masking agent for other PEDs because the drug dilutes your urine so much that other drugs such as testosterone aren't able to be detected above the threshold. Diuretics are an easy way to pass these drug tests as well. Literally, it's so easy that you would have to be an idiot to pop. You see, what I'm trying to prove is soccer isn't the one exception in sports where players don't use PEDs. If anything, it's probably one of the highest. Now, if I had to make an educated opinion on exactly how many players are on something, I would say at least 80 to 90% of top flight players are on at least one illegal substance. It only makes sense with how easy it is to hide and how effective PEDs can be to boost overall performance.